Returning home that day, I expected nothing out of the ordinary. The workday had been grueling, and all I wanted was to relax with a cup of coffee. But instead of peace and quiet, I was greeted by strange noises coming from our bedroom. My heart skipped a beat, and my legs carried me towards the source of the sounds almost involuntarily. As I pushed open the door, the sight that met my eyes was one I would never forget. Jennifer, my wife, was in the arms of another man. Their faces, frozen in horror and surprise, were etched into my memory forever. At that moment, I knew my life would never be the same again. "Michael, I can explain," Jennifer stammered, scrambling to cover herself with the bedsheet. The man beside her, equally flustered, fumbled to gather his clothes. "Explain?" I spat out the word, my voice trembling with a mix of rage and disbelief. "Explain how you could do this to me? To our family?" Jennifer's eyes welled up with tears, but I couldn't bring myself to feel any sympathy. The betrayal cut too deep. Without another word, I turned on my heel and stormed out of the house. I needed to get away, to clear my head. I drove aimlessly for what felt like hours, my mind racing with thoughts of anger, sorrow, and confusion. Eventually, I found myself at the doorstep of my best friend, Mark. He opened the door, his face immediately reflecting concern as he saw my expression. "Mike, what's wrong?" he asked, ushering me inside. I broke down in tears, recounting the scene I had just witnessed. Mark listened patiently, offering me a drink and a place to stay for the night. As I poured my heart out, he helped me begin to piece together a plan for what to do next. The following days were a blur. I was in a state of shock, barely able to function at work or at home. But as the initial numbness began to wear off, a burning need for answers took its place. I had to know more about Jennifer's betrayal. Hiring a private investigator seemed like the only logical step. I needed to understand the extent of her deceit, how long it had been going on, and who this other man was. Within a week, the investigator had gathered enough information to confirm my worst fears. Jennifer had been leading a double life for years, with Tom, her secret lover. Armed with this knowledge, I decided it was time to confront her. We met at our house, the place that had once been our sanctuary now feeling like a battleground. I laid out all the evidence in front of her, every photograph and piece of correspondence that painted a clear picture of her infidelity. Jennifer's confession was a mixture of guilt and defiance. She admitted to the affair, explaining that she had felt unfulfilled in our marriage, lacking the passion and romance she craved. Her words stung, but they also brought a strange sense of clarity. This wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about the cracks in our relationship that I had been blind to. The decision to file for divorce was agonizing but inevitable. Our children took the news hard, their world shattered by the truth of our broken family. We tried to explain, to reassure them, but the damage was done. Each day became a struggle to maintain a semblance of normalcy as we navigated this painful transition. Months passed. I moved into a new apartment, starting the slow process of rebuilding my life. Piece by piece, I began to find the strength to move on. Eventually, I even started dating someone new, though the scars from Jennifer's betrayal remained, a constant reminder of how fragile love and trust can be. Life would go on, but the wound left by that day would never fully heal. The memory of Jennifer in another man's arms was a permanent mark on my soul, a testament to the fragility of the illusions we hold dear. The days following my discovery of Jennifer's betrayal were a haze of disbelief and agony. I could barely function, each moment haunted by the image of her with another man. Mark's place became my refuge. His unyielding support was a lifeline as I grappled with the tidal wave of emotions that threatened to drown me. "Mike, you need to get out of the house," Mark urged one morning as I sat listlessly on his couch. "You can't let this consume you. Go for a walk, get some fresh air." I nodded, knowing he was right. I forced myself to get up and go outside. As I wandered aimlessly through the neighborhood, memories of happier times with Jennifer flooded my mind, each one now tainted by the knowledge of her infidelity. Returning to Mark's place, I made a decision. I couldn't move forward without understanding the full extent of Jennifer's deceit. It wasn't just about her affair. It was about the years of lies and deception that had poisoned our marriage. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I hired a private investigator named Sam. His reputation for thoroughness and discretion was exactly what I needed. I handed him a recent photo of Jennifer and gave him all the information I could about her routines and social circles. "Leave it to me," Sam said, his tone professional and reassuring. "I'll find out everything you need to know." Days turned into weeks as Sam conducted his investigation. The waiting was torturous, each passing day a reminder of the uncertainty and betrayal that had upended my life. Finally, Sam called and asked me to meet him at his office. "Mike, you'd better sit down for this," Sam began, sliding a folder across the desk towards me. "What I found is extensive." I opened the folder and my heart sank. Inside were photographs of Jennifer and Tom, her secret lover, in various intimate settings. They were in restaurants, parks, and even a cabin in the mountains, places she had told me she was visiting with friends or on business trips. "She's been seeing him for over 3 years," Sam continued. "They have a routine, a separate life. She even has a second phone to communicate with him." 3 years. The weight of that number crushed me. For 3 years, Jennifer had been living a lie, sharing her heart and body with another man while pretending to be my loving wife. I felt a surge of anger, but also a strange sense of relief. At least now, I knew the truth. "Thank you, Sam," I said, my voice strained. "I appreciate your help." Armed with the evidence, I returned home. Jennifer was sitting at the kitchen table, her eyes red from crying. She looked up as I entered, her expression a mixture of guilt and fear. "Michael, please," she began, but I cut her off. "Don't," I said sharply. "I know everything. About you and Tom, about your double life. I have the proof." I placed the folder on the table in front of her. Jennifer's hands trembled as she opened it and saw the photographs. Tears streamed down her face, but I felt no pity. The betrayal was too deep. "Why?" I demanded, my voice breaking. "Why did you do this, Jennifer? Why didn't you just leave if you were so unhappy?" She sobbed, clutching the photographs. I didn't want to hurt you, Michael. I thought I could have both, that I could keep our family together and still have what I was missing." "What you were missing?" I echoed, incredulous. "You destroyed our family, Jennifer. You destroyed everything." The conversation continued, each word cutting deeper than the last. Jennifer admitted that she had felt unfulfilled in our marriage, craving the passion and excitement that had faded over the years. Tom had provided that, but she hadn't wanted to give up the stability and security of our life together. "It's over," I said finally, my voice hollow. "I'm filing for divorce. I can't live with this betrayal." Jennifer nodded, her face a mask of despair. "I understand," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, Michael, for everything." The days that followed were a blur of legal meetings and painful conversations with our children. Telling them the truth was the hardest part. Their faces, once so full of trust and love, now reflected confusion and hurt. "Why, Dad?" Emily, our oldest, asked through her tears. "Why is this happening?" I tried to explain, to make them understand that this wasn't their fault, that sometimes adults made mistakes that had nothing to do with their children. But their world had been shattered, and no words could fully mend their broken hearts. Moving out of our family home was another devastating blow. Packing up my belongings, I was haunted by memories of the life we had built together, now reduced to a collection of boxes and shattered dreams. I found a small apartment across town, a place to start over. The transition was excruciating, but I forced myself to keep going. I immersed myself in work, trying to fill the void left by Jennifer's betrayal. Gradually, I began to rebuild my life, piece by piece. I reconnected with old friends, joined a gym, and even took up cooking, something I had always enjoyed but never had the time for. Then, one day, I met Lisa. She was a colleague of Mark's, introduced to me at a casual get-together. We started talking, and for the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope. Lisa was kind, intelligent, and understanding. She knew about my past, yet she saw beyond my pain. As we grew closer, I realized that while Jennifer's betrayal had left deep scars, it hadn't destroyed my ability to love and trust completely. Lisa helped me see that I could still have a future, that the wounds would heal in time. But even as I moved forward, the memory of Jennifer's double life lingered. It was a reminder of how fragile trust can be, how easily the foundations of a relationship can crumble. I vowed never to take love for granted again, to cherish and nurture it, knowing how precious and delicate it truly is. Life was far from perfect, but it was moving forward. Each day was a step away from the past and a step towards a new beginning. And though the journey was painful, it was also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the capacity to heal and find hope even in the darkest of times. The weeks following my decision to file for divorce were some of the hardest I'd ever faced. Every corner of our home was a reminder of Jennifer's betrayal and the life we had built together. The legal process was grueling, and the emotional toll was even greater. But amidst the chaos, I found a strange sense of determination. I had to face the reality of my situation head-on. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day at work, I returned to find Jennifer waiting for me. Her eyes were puffy from crying, and she looked more fragile than I'd ever seen her. Despite everything, part of me still ached to see her in such pain. "Michael, can we talk?" she asked softly. I nodded, feeling a mix of dread and resolve. We sat down in the living room, the silence between us heavy with unspoken words. "I know you're angry," Jennifer began, her voice trembling. "And you have every right to be, but I need you to understand why this happened. Not to excuse it, but to explain." I braced myself for what was coming. Jennifer took a deep breath and started to speak. "I've felt lost for a long time," she admitted. "Our marriage became routine, predictable. I love you, Michael, but I felt like I was suffocating. When I met Tom, it was like a part of me woke up again. I felt alive." Her words cut deep, but I forced myself to listen. She needed to get this out, and I needed to hear it. "But why didn't you talk to me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why didn't you tell me how you felt?" Jennifer shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I was afraid of hurting you, of breaking up our family. I thought I could keep it separate, that I could have both lives. But I was wrong." The room was silent except for Jennifer's sobs. I felt a strange mix of anger and sorrow. Her betrayal had torn us apart, but it was clear that she had been suffering too. "What happens now?" I asked after a long pause. Jennifer wiped her eyes and looked at me with a mixture of hope and despair. "I don't know. I want to make things right, but I don't know if that's possible." I sighed, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on me. "We need to focus on the kids. They're the ones who are hurting the most." Jennifer nodded, and for the first time in weeks, I saw a glimmer of the woman I had fallen in love with. "You're right. They deserve better than this." In the following weeks, Jennifer and I made a concerted effort to co-parent as effectively as possible. It was a delicate balance, but our children needed to see that we could still work together, even if our marriage was over. Emily and Jack were understandably confused and hurt, but we did our best to reassure them that we both loved them and would always be there for them. As the divorce proceedings moved forward, I continued to rebuild my life. I threw myself into my work, finding solace in the routine and the sense of accomplishment it brought. I also reconnected with old friends and even made some new ones, including Lisa. Her presence in my life became a source of comfort and hope. One evening, as I was sorting through some old photos, I came across a picture of Jennifer and me from our wedding day. We looked so happy, so full of dreams and aspirations. The sight of it brought a lump to my throat, but it also gave me a sense of closure. That chapter of my life was over, but it didn't erase the good times we had shared. Despite everything, I still believed in love. I knew that moving forward would be a challenge, but I was determined to do it. I wasn't going to let Jennifer's betrayal define me or my future. A few months later, the divorce was finalized. The process had been painful, but it also brought a sense of relief. I was finally free to start anew, to build a life that was my own. I found a new apartment and began to settle into my new routine. One evening, as I was unpacking, Lisa called. We had been seeing each other more frequently, and our connection had grown stronger. "Hey, Mike," she said, her voice warm and reassuring. "How's the new place?" "It's good," I replied, feeling a smile tug at the corners of my mouth. "Still getting used to it, but it feels right." "I'm glad to hear that," Lisa said. "I was thinking, if you're up for it, maybe we could go out for dinner this weekend. Celebrate your new beginning?" I hesitated for a moment, but then I realized that I wanted to move forward. I wanted to embrace this new chapter of my life. "That sounds great, Lisa," I said, feeling a sense of excitement for the first time in a long while. "I'd love that." As the weekend approached, I found myself looking forward to the date with a mix of anticipation and nervousness. It had been so long since I had felt this way, and it was both exhilarating and terrifying, but I knew that I had to take this step, to open myself up to the possibility of love again. The night of our date, Lisa and I went to a cozy little restaurant downtown. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, and the conversation flowed easily. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely happy. Lisa had a way of making me feel at ease, and I was grateful for her presence in my life. As the evening progressed, I realized that I was ready to let go of the past. Jennifer's betrayal had left scars, but it hadn't destroyed my capacity for love and trust. I knew that I would always carry the memories of what had happened, but I was determined not to let them define my future. Lisa and I continued to see each other, and our relationship grew stronger with each passing day. She became a steady presence in my life, a source of support and joy. And as time went on, I found myself healing in ways I hadn't thought possible. Looking back, I realized that Jennifer's betrayal, while devastating, had also forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities and shortcomings. It had been a painful journey, but it had also been a path to growth and self-discovery. Life wasn't perfect, but it was moving forward. Each day was a step towards a new beginning, a chance to build a life filled with hope and possibility. And as I stood on the threshold of this new chapter, I felt a sense of gratitude for the lessons I had learned and the strength I had found within myself. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to face it with an open heart and a renewed sense of purpose. And with Lisa by my side, I knew that I had the support and love I needed to navigate whatever challenges lay ahead. Jennifer's betrayal had been a turning point, a moment of profound change. But it had also been a catalyst for growth, a chance to rebuild and redefine my life. And as I looked ahead, I felt a sense of hope and anticipation for the journey that lay before me. The divorce was finalized, and the reality of our broken family set in. The paperwork, the court dates, and the legal jargon had consumed our lives for months, but now it was over. The finality of it all was both a relief and a heartbreak. I moved into my new apartment, a modest place across town, far enough to start fresh, but close enough to be there for Emily and Jack. The children took the news harder than I had anticipated. Emily, our eldest, became withdrawn, spending more time in her room, her grades slipping, and her once vibrant personality dimming. Jack, on the other hand, expressed his confusion and anger more openly, often lashing out at both Jennifer and me. One evening, I picked up Emily and Jack for dinner at my new place. I wanted to create a sense of normalcy, a space where they could feel at home, even if it was just a small apartment with boxes still unpacked. "Hey, Dad," Jack mumbled as he walked in, dropping his backpack by the door. "Hi, buddy," I said, ruffling his hair. "How was school?" "Fine," he replied, his eyes avoiding mine. Emily walked in quietly, her headphones on, not bothering to acknowledge me. "Emily," I called gently, "how about we take off the headphones at the table?" She nodded slightly and removed them, but her eyes remained distant. We sat down for dinner, the silence thick with unspoken words. "Do you guys like the new place?" I asked, trying to break the ice. "It's fine," Emily muttered, poking at her food. "I know it's different, but I want you to feel at home here," I continued, desperate to reach them. "You can decorate your rooms however you want. We can go shopping this weekend." Jack looked up, his eyes filled with anger. "Why did this have to happen? Why did you and Mom have to ruin everything?" The question hung in the air, heavy and painful. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "Jack, I'm so sorry for what's happened," I began, my voice trembling. "Your mom and we made mistakes. Big mistakes. But none of this is your fault. We both love you very much, and we're trying to do what's best for you." Emily finally looked up, tears welling in her eyes. "How is breaking up our family? What's best for us?" Her words cut deep, and I felt a surge of guilt and helplessness. I know it doesn't seem like it now, but sometimes staying together can cause more harm than good. Your mom and I weren't happy, and that affects everyone. We're trying to give you the best chance at a happy, stable life, even if it's not the life we all envisioned. The conversation continued, each word a painful reminder of the family we had lost. I did my best to reassure them, to promise that things would get better, even though I wasn't entirely sure of that myself. Over the following weeks, Jennifer and I worked hard to co-parent effectively. We communicated more openly than we had in years, coordinating schedules and making sure the children's needs came first. But the damage was done, and the road to healing was long and arduous. One weekend, as planned, I took Emily and Jack shopping to decorate their rooms. Emily picked out fairy lights and posters of her favorite bands, while Jack chose sports-themed decor and a new gaming setup. It was a small step towards making them feel more comfortable, but it was a step nonetheless. During the car ride home, Emily seemed a bit more relaxed, even engaging in light conversation. Jack, however, remained silent, staring out the window, lost in his thoughts. As the weeks turned into months, the new routine began to take shape. I attended every soccer game and school event, making sure to be as present as possible in Emily and Jack's lives. But despite my best efforts, the strain of our fractured family was evident. Jennifer and I continued to see a family therapist separately and with the children, trying to navigate this new normal. The sessions were tough, often bringing up raw emotions and difficult truths. But they were necessary. We had to face the reality of our situation if we wanted to heal. One evening after a particularly intense therapy session, I found myself sitting alone in my apartment, reflecting on everything that had happened. The silence was deafening, and the loneliness crept in, gnawing at the edges of my resolve. Just as I was about to drown in my thoughts, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Lisa. "Hey Mike, just checking in. How are you holding up?" Her simple message brought a wave of warmth and comfort. I hadn't seen much of Lisa recently, caught up in the chaos of the divorce and the children. But her presence in my life, even from a distance, was a beacon of hope. "I'm managing," I replied. "It's been tough, but we're getting through it. How about you?" We continued to chat, and for a moment, the weight of my troubles lifted. Lisa had a way of making everything seem a bit more bearable, her positivity and kindness shining through even the darkest days. As time passed, my relationship with Lisa grew stronger. She became a steady presence, not just for me, but for Emily and Jack as well. She understood the delicate balance of being there for us without overstepping boundaries. Her patience and understanding were invaluable, and slowly, the children began to warm up to her. One sunny Saturday, Lisa and I took Emily and Jack to a nearby park. We had planned a picnic, hoping to create some new, happier memories. As we spread out the blanket and unpacked the food, I noticed Emily and Jack relaxing, their laughter mingling with the sounds of the park. "Look, Dad," Jack called out, holding up a kite we had brought along. "Can we fly it?" "Of course, buddy," I replied, smiling. "Let's do it." We spent the afternoon flying kites, playing frisbee, and enjoying the simple pleasures of a sunny day. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of peace. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As the sun began to set, we packed up and headed home. Emily and Jack chatted animatedly in the back seat, their earlier somberness replaced by smiles and laughter. I glanced at Lisa, who was watching them with a tender expression. "Thank you," I said softly, squeezing her hand, "for everything." She smiled, her eyes warm and reassuring. "We're in this together, Mike. All of us." Back at the apartment, we settled in for a movie night. The children chose an animated film, and as we sat together on the couch, I felt a sense of hope for the future. It wouldn't be easy, but with Lisa by my side and the support of friends and family, I knew we could find our way through this. The days turned into weeks, and then months. Emily's grades began to improve, and she started participating in school activities again. Jack's anger subsided, and he became more open and communicative. Jennifer and I continued to work on our co-parenting relationship, finding a fragile but necessary peace. Life wasn't perfect, and the scars of the past were still there. But we were healing, slowly but surely. The ruins of our family were being rebuilt, not in the same way as before, but in a way that worked for us. One evening, as I tucked Emily and Jack into bed, I felt a sense of gratitude. Despite the pain and heartbreak, we were moving forward. We were creating new memories, building a new kind of family. As I closed their bedroom doors and headed back to the living room, I found Lisa waiting for me. She wrapped her arms around me, and I held her close, feeling the strength and love that had helped me through the darkest days. "We're going to be okay," she whispered, her voice filled with conviction. I nodded, feeling the truth of her words. We were going to be okay. The journey was far from over, but we were on the right path. And as I looked ahead, I saw a future filled with hope, resilience, and the promise of new beginnings. The path to healing was a long one, marked by moments of hope and setbacks that tested my resolve. Each day brought new challenges, but also small victories that reminded me of the strength within myself and my family. One of the most significant hurdles was the question of forgiveness. How could I move forward while still carrying the weight of Jennifer's betrayal? It was a cold winter evening when Jennifer called, asking if we could meet. The divorce had been finalized for several months, and our interactions had been limited to co-parenting logistics. Her request was unexpected, and I couldn't help but feel a knot of apprehension in my stomach. We met at a quiet coffee shop halfway between our homes. Jennifer looked tired, the toll of the past year evident in the lines on her face and the sadness in her eyes. I felt a pang of sympathy, despite everything. "Michael, thank you for meeting with me," she began, her voice soft but steady. I nodded, taking a sip of my coffee. "What's on your mind, Jennifer?" She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she held her cup. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize I owe you more than just an apology. I owe you an explanation, and maybe even an attempt at forgiveness." I sat back, my emotions a whirlwind. Part of me wanted to turn away, to avoid reopening old wounds. But another part of me knew that this conversation was necessary. "Go on," I said, my voice calm but guarded. Jennifer began to speak, her words filled with regret and sorrow. She recounted her feelings of loneliness and dissatisfaction, the way she had sought solace in someone else rather than confronting the issues within our marriage. She admitted to her selfishness and fear, and how those emotions had led her down a path of deceit. "I know I can't undo the past," she said, her eyes brimming with tears. "But I want you to know that I'm truly sorry, Michael, for everything. I understand if you can't forgive me, but I needed to say it." Her words hung in the air, heavy with emotion. I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief. This was the closure I hadn't realized I needed. "I appreciate your honesty, Jennifer," I replied, my voice steady. "It's taken me a long time to process everything, and while I can't forget what happened, I'm starting to understand it. We both made mistakes, and we both paid the price." She nodded, her tears falling freely now. "Thank you, Michael. That means more than you know." We sat in silence for a while, the weight of the past year settling between us. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a step towards healing. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of lightness, as if a burden had been lifted from my shoulders. The conversation with Jennifer marked a turning point. It wasn't just about forgiving her, it was about forgiving myself, too. For the mistakes I had made, for the signs I had missed, for the ways I had contributed to the breakdown of our marriage. It was a painful process, but necessary for my own growth and healing. In the months that followed, my relationship with Lisa continued to blossom. She was a constant source of support and understanding, and I found myself opening up to her in ways I hadn't been able to before. We talked about our pasts, our fears, and our hopes for the future. With her, I felt a sense of security and love that I had thought lost forever. Emily and Jack also began to thrive. The stability we had worked so hard to create was paying off. Emily's grades continued to improve, and she started participating in extracurricular activities again. Jack's anger subsided, and he became more open and communicative. The wounds were healing, slowly but surely. One evening, as we sat down for dinner, Emily made an announcement that filled my heart with pride. "Dad, I got accepted into the advanced art program at school," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "That's amazing, Emily," I replied, beaming with pride. "I'm so proud of you." Jack chimed in, his face lighting up. "Yeah, Em, that's awesome." We celebrated with a special dessert, and as I watched my children's happiness, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Despite everything, we were moving forward, stronger than before. Lisa became an integral part of our lives. She was patient and kind, understanding the delicate dynamics of our blended family. She attended Emily's art shows and Jack's soccer games, always cheering them on and offering her support. One weekend, we decided to take a trip to the mountains. It was a chance to get away from the daily grind and create new memories together. The cabin we rented was cozy, nestled among towering pine trees with a stunning view of the snow-capped peaks. As we unpacked and settled in, the children's excitement was palpable. They ran outside to explore, their laughter echoing through the crisp mountain air. Lisa and I watched them from the porch, our hands intertwined. "This was a great idea," Lisa said, her eyes shining with happiness. "Thank you for bringing us here." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. I wanted to do something special. We've all been through so much, and we deserve this. The weekend was filled with laughter and joy. We went hiking, played in the snow, and spent evenings by the fireplace, sharing stories and roasting marshmallows. It was a reminder of the simple pleasures in life and the importance of cherishing the moments we had together. One evening, after the children had gone to bed, Lisa and I sat by the fire, wrapped in a cozy blanket. The flames danced, casting a warm glow on her face. "Mike," she began, her voice soft, "I've been meaning to tell you something." I looked at her, my heart pounding with anticipation. "What is it?" She took a deep breath, her eyes filled with love. "I love you. I've fallen in love with you and your kids. You've all become so important to me." Her words took my breath away. I felt a rush of emotions, a mixture of joy and relief. "I love you too, Lisa," I replied, my voice choked with emotion. "You've brought so much light into our lives. I can't imagine my life without you." We shared a tender kiss, the fire crackling softly in the background. In that moment, I felt a sense of completeness, a realization that despite the pain and heartbreak, love had found its way back into my life. As our relationship deepened, Lisa and I began to talk about the future. We discussed the possibility of moving in together, blending our families even more. It was a big step, but one that felt right. One afternoon, while the kids were at school, Lisa and I visited a house that was up for sale. It was a beautiful home, spacious enough for all of us, with a large backyard and plenty of room for the children to play. "What do you think?" I asked, my excitement barely contained. Lisa smiled, her eyes sparkling. "I love it. It feels like home." We made an offer, and a few weeks later, it was accepted. The move was a whirlwind of packing and organizing, but the excitement overshadowed the chaos. Emily and Jack were thrilled at the prospect of a new home, and their enthusiasm was contagious. On the day of the move, we all worked together, carrying boxes and arranging furniture. By evening, we were exhausted, but happy. As we sat down to our first meal in the new house, I looked around at my family, feeling a profound sense of contentment. "This is the start of something wonderful," I said, raising my glass. "To new beginnings." "To new beginnings!" everyone echoed, clinking their glasses together. The months that followed were some of the happiest of my life. We settled into our new home, creating a space filled with love and laughter. Emily and Jack adjusted well, their spirits lifted by the positive changes. Lisa and I continued to grow closer, our bond strengthening with each passing day. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Lisa turned to me, her expression serious. "Mike, there's something I've been thinking about," she said. I looked at her, my heart pounding. "What is it?" "I know we've both been through a lot, and our journey hasn't been easy, but I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" Her words took me by surprise, and I felt a rush of emotions. Tears filled my eyes as I realized how much this moment meant. "Yes," I whispered, my voice filled with love. "Yes, I'll marry you." We embraced, the sunset casting a golden glow over us. In that moment, I knew that despite the pain and heartbreak of the past, I had found a love that was true and enduring. We were a family, stronger together, ready to face whatever the future held. The road to forgiveness and healing had been long and difficult, but it had led us to a place of profound love and happiness. And as I looked at Lisa, I knew that our journey was just beginning, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Our wedding day dawned with the soft glow of a spring morning, the air filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the promise of a new beginning. Lisa and I had chosen to have a small, intimate ceremony in our backyard, surrounded by close friends and family. The house we had made our home was the perfect setting, its warm and welcoming atmosphere reflecting the love and happiness we had found together. As I stood at the altar, waiting for Lisa, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought us to this moment. The pain and heartbreak of the past seemed like a distant memory, replaced by the overwhelming joy and love I felt for this incredible woman. Emily and Jack stood by my side, their smiles a testament to the healing and growth we had all experienced. The music started, and I looked up to see Lisa walking towards me, her eyes shining with love and happiness. She was radiant, her beauty taking my breath away. As she reached the altar, I took her hands in mine, feeling the warmth and strength of her love. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. We exchanged vows that we had written ourselves, each word a reflection of our journey and our commitment to one another. As we promised to love and support each other for the rest of our lives, I felt a profound sense of peace and fulfillment. This was where I was meant to be, with the woman I loved and the family we had created together. After the ceremony, we celebrated with a reception in the backyard. The children ran around, their laughter filling the air, while our friends and family mingled, enjoying the food and drinks we had prepared. It was a perfect day, filled with love, joy, and the promise of a bright future. As the evening drew to a close, Lisa and I found a quiet moment to ourselves. We stood on the porch, watching the sun set over the horizon, its golden light casting a warm glow over the landscape. "Can you believe we're finally here?" Lisa said, her voice filled with wonder. I smiled, wrapping my arm around her waist. "It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?" She nodded, resting her head on my shoulder. "But I wouldn't change a thing. Every step brought us closer together, and now we're here, ready to start the next chapter of our lives." I kissed her softly, feeling the truth of her words. "I love you, Lisa. Thank you for being my rock, my partner, and my best friend." "I love you too, Mike," she replied, her eyes shining with tears of happiness. "And I can't wait to see what the future holds for us." As we stood there watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had led us to a place of profound love and happiness. We had built a new life together, filled with the promise of endless possibilities and the joy of a love that was true and enduring. The weeks and months that followed were filled with the joys and challenges of everyday life. We settled into our roles as a blended family, finding a rhythm that worked for all of us. Emily and Jack continued to thrive, their spirits lifted by the stability and love that surrounded them. Lisa and I grew even closer, our bond strengthened by the experiences we shared. One sunny afternoon, as we sat in the backyard watching the children play, Lisa turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Mike, I've been thinking," she began, her voice hesitant. "What do you think about having another child?" Her question took me by surprise, and I felt a rush of emotions. The idea of expanding our family was both exciting and daunting, but as I looked into her eyes, I saw the love and hope that had carried us through so much. "I think it's a wonderful idea," I replied, my heart swelling with love. "I can't imagine a more perfect way to continue building our future together." We decided to try for a baby, and the months that followed were filled with anticipation and joy. When Lisa told me she was pregnant, I felt a surge of happiness that I could hardly contain. We shared the news with Emily and Jack, who were thrilled at the prospect of having a new sibling. As Lisa's pregnancy progressed, our home was filled with excitement and preparation. We decorated the nursery, choosing soft colors and whimsical designs that reflected our hopes and dreams for the new addition to our family. Emily and Jack were actively involved, helping to choose toys and books, their enthusiasm contagious. The day our baby was born was one of the happiest of my life. Lisa and I welcomed a beautiful baby girl, whom we named Grace. Holding her in my arms for the first time, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and gratitude. She was a symbol of the new beginning we had created together, a testament to the strength and resilience of our love. As the weeks turned into months, our family settled into a new routine. Grace brought a new dimension of joy and love into our lives, her presence a constant reminder of the journey we had traveled and the bright future that lay ahead. One evening, as we sat together in the living room, watching Grace sleep in her crib, I looked around at my family and felt a profound sense of contentment. Emily and Jack were playing a board game, their laughter filling the room, while Lisa sat beside me, her hand resting on my knee. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" I said softly, my heart full. Lisa nodded, her eyes shining with love. "We have, and I wouldn't change a thing." As I looked into her eyes, I knew that our journey was far from over. There would be more challenges, more joys, and more moments of growth. But I also knew that with Lisa by my side, we could face anything that came our way. We were a family, bound by love and strengthened by the trials we had overcome. And as we looked to the future, I knew that whatever it held, we would face it together, with hope, resilience, and the promise of endless possibilities.